So, you mentioned the Euler hack last month. So, how did you kind of apply that concept to what happened there, and also how did it impact you?
Yeah, so first and foremost, over the last year or so, having this been my second deep bear market, I was sitting in a lot of stable coins. I was selling off assets all the way down, knowing to prepare for the worst. So it's feeling pretty good, right? Like it's not like um, I was really hurt by the general market and figured okay, maybe I'll start earning some interest in all this cash just sitting there and end up putting in Mueller and have it on my to-do list for legitimately 2 months, on a whiteboard. Hey, diversify out of Euler, knowing that there are a lot of risks in keeping substantial funds in a smart contract platform, or yeah, in a smart
Yeah.
contract. And so I remember, it was that Monday morning, woke up, had my, kind of morning routines, and then log in and see this on Twitter. And at first it was just disbelief, no, 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 no. I've but
Hello,
having it
Jack. I think you
sorry,
cut out for just a little bit. You
sorry.
cut out for a few seconds. The last thing I heard was that you logged into Twitter and you were in uh disbelief of what you saw, but I didn't hear anything after that.
Yeah, sorry. So logged in and was just hit with this pure disbelief of there's no way this could happen. And so start kind of frantically looking into just exactly what happens, where all my money went, and didn't take too long to realize it was the absolute worst case scenario. So for maybe a handful of minutes was hit with that just deep despair of how could you be so dumb? You knew this was a possibility. Why did you not act on it like you knew you should have, kind of thing? But then very quickly after, in the strangest way, was just hit with a sense of clear headedness and recognizing that, okay, this happened, right? There is not a thing in the world I can do to make this unhappen. So why not just focus on what is under my control, right? Why would I let
Right.
myself get caught up in regret over something that I, again, quite literally cannot do anything about? As that just, it's a recipe for, just unhappiness and,
Yeah.
trying to find a way to spin this into something that I can use for a positive force in my life.
Definitely. And what would you say, I guess, the takeaway lessons from that, in terms of how are you protecting yourself in the DeFi world now?
Yeah, so practically, right? Don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Very simple advice. But even if it's only for a short time, you really got to be aware of that. I think I'm sitting safe. I'm in stable coins, but again, any protocol, even if it's audited 7 or 8 times, there's perpetually that risk. Even sitting in a USDC or a Tether, is always black swan events that can happen. But I think more importantly, what prepared me mentally, right, was just the years of kind of a mindfulness practice, so that after that initial kind of despair moment, why my brain didn't get wrapped up in the loss itself, and kind of went more practically to, okay, now what can I do about it? So right, it wasn't a spur of the moment where I acted all mindfully. It was years of trying to practice that, and actually even running that thought experiment in my head of what would I do if I lost everything. And I think that's a very worthwhile exercise to really sit with that thought, meditate on it, journal, understand what you would do, because I think it's very perspective shifting. I'm just how would you live your life, and what role does money play in that, and understanding that money does not provide happiness or fulfillment. So if you ever are faced with something like this, which if you're in crypto, there's a decent chance at some point something could happen, whether it's a hack, a liquidation, whatever. So preparing yourself mentally, I think, is crucial for anyone in this industry, or that's putting substantial money in a very high growth asset.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think it's like a little bit of, understanding when your mind is not in the right state of mind, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
knowing not to listen to the thoughts that come during that time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like, when you first kind of see what happened, like you even talked about how like your initial thoughts weren't the best, right? Like you didn't feel the best about what happened. And it's like if you acted on those initial thoughts and, in whichever way by like, making more trades or like whatever it might be. And like I feel like, what happened to you was like an extreme circumstance. But let's say with like trading, for instance, like let's say if you make a bad trade, it's like, it's not trying to revenge trade to like make back the profits because that's just going to put you deeper in the hole probably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Or on the flip side, like, make you give up on crypto as a whole because like you're so disillusioned, right? Like you have to find that happy medium that, given your range of knowledge and conviction in this industry, that you can like respond appropriately, right? And not try to ape it all back in and make it on one trade, or just say screw this, like, I'm going to go put everything in a 401k.
Yeah. So, like working in the crypto space, how do you deal with like loss in that sense? Like, I mean, like, how do you deal with like difficult situations? Like, being part of like a growing company isn't always like the easiest thing to do. So, like, how do you balance out the craziness of the crypto space and working in crypto?
um yeah, good question. I think surrounding yourself with like positive sum people is such a big part. And for the most part, I think the vast majority of people in crypto, it sort of self selects for people that are, um, kind of think about the world differently, but also, in a similar manner, where there's sort of somewhat uh, a tendency to, right, believe in the ideas of like self sovereignty and decentralization, everything, but also very motivated, driven people. But I think with like a focus on actually like building a better world and not just making money, because I think that's the trap I've even felt myself kind of get into over the years, of spending too much time looking at price charts or focusing on the market, when like, at least for myself, and I think Masari and my coworkers or business partners, people like I interact with, like there's more of like a long-term focus on the good that this industry can bring. And so that helps, when over the last 9 months we have the Terra collapse and 3AC and FTX and everything. But
Yeah.
rather than being like, holy shit, this is gonna absolutely nuke my bags, just thinking, okay, we are purging a lot of the necessary evil out of the industry, right? Where if I have a vision of where we're going to be in 5, 10, 20 years, this is sort of a necessary cleansing to hopefully bring this to the masses inevitably. Um, once the infrastructure is there and everything. So yeah, I think just keeping a focus on the end goal and the building, and not just money making potential.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like especially after like, just I was in crypto like initially I worked full time in the space starting in 2018 and I did it for 2 years and then I left the space for a year. And I think my second time coming back, like I had a lot more of a focus on building than just like getting rich. And I think that's what made it so much better, but also makes, yeah, like all these things bearable, honestly.